I was standing in my driveway at 5:47 a.m., coffee half cold, watching the HOA president spray paint my $40,000 solar array bright pink. And I laughed because you don't expect your life's work to get vandalized before your second cup. She snarled like she owned the morning and wielded a spray can like it was a gavel. "Your ugly gadgets are ruining everyone's property values," she hissed, and then added another coat. They were legal, properly permitted, engineered to within an inch of perfection, and they powered half the block. But Victoria Ashworth didn't care for facts. She cared about control. She cared about appearances. She cared about being the one who decided what counted as neighborhood character. What she didn't know was that those ugly little panels were watching her every move. My name is Grant Blake. I'm 42, ex-Army and electrical engineer, and I built that system with my daughter Emma after medical bills wiped out our savings. Sarah was in remission by then, and we chose a house because the roof faced exactly where the sun lives. I spent 6 months with a drill in hand, turning what should have been a death sentence into a neighborhood lifeline, 2 underground feeders, a shared microgrid, and a network of cameras that ran off our panels. Emma called them her space panels, and she believed they powered everything she loved. At first it was small, the sort of quiet thing neighbors whisper about on porches, and then forget. Mrs. Patterson next door was spending half her Social Security on electricity. The Morales family down the street was bleeding under peak rates. So I configured the system to share power during high-cost hours and drop people's bills by a third. Then I started wiring security cameras for folks who couldn't afford professional systems. 17 lenses tucked into eaves and lampposts recording driveways, mailboxes, the common green, the soft hum of transformers, and the blue LED glow became our new neighborhood blanket. Crime dropped. Kids started biking after dark. People smiled again. You'd think that would be the end of it. You'd be wrong. Victoria ran Willowbrook Estates like it was her personal stage. Picture a woman who traded civility for a Mont Blanc and stiletto click-clacks. Picture rulebooks drafted in her handwriting and fines tossed like confetti. 6 months after the system went live, she served me an official violation the panels somehow detracted from established neighborhood aesthetics. I handed her permits, architectural approvals, county letters, even studies that show solar increases home values, and she waved them like they were tissue paper. "Fix it," she said, all steel and lipstick, "or we'll fix it for you." That's when the conflict turned sharp. She came with attorneys and threats, but she didn't realize that every one of her hostile visits, her late-night consultations, her whispered strategies were being recorded in crystal-clear 4K and uploaded to a secure cloud. My cameras had logged a pattern, a targeting list, the veteran who kept to himself, Mrs. Patterson, an elderly widow who kept Harold's roses, the Morales family with their vegetable patch, the teacher pulling 2 jobs, the young black couple with the artsy mailbox. Victoria's aesthetic enforcement had a face, and the footage showed it. When a city inspector knocked on my door, polite clipboard coffee breath, and said complaints had been lodged, I handed him the folder he expected to find, lacking permits, inspections, engineering reports. He told me off the record that complaints like mine trigger radius inspections. My pulse went a beat faster. The addresses he mentioned were in that radius: unpermitted gazebo wiring, failed pool house inspections, decorative lighting not up to code. One of those addresses was Victoria's. Isn't irony a cruel, lovely thing? The same complaint she filed to seize control pulled a thread that unraveled her own house. Jennifer Morales, a neighbor and paralegal, started digging. She pulled bank records. What she found were monthly payments to a shell company, Willowbrook Consulting LLC, with no documented work. Money flowed to Victoria's husband's business like a faucet left on. It got worse. Mrs. Patterson received a notice demanding Harold's memorial roses be removed because apparently flowers attract undesirable wildlife. I watched footage of Victoria and Diane Cromwell plotting at 11 p.m., deciding who to make an example of. "Hit them where it hurts," Victoria said on camera. I started building a file: images, audio, meeting recordings, a map of selective enforcement. The evidence didn't just tell a story, it screamed. Victoria panicked. She doubled down and called an emergency meeting to pass retroactive guidelines that would have made my legal installation illegal and hit me with $15,000 in compliance fines. In front of volunteers, she essentially confessed to pursuing policies she knew were unlawful if they served the board's desire to control. My cameras recorded her exact words. Then she sued me $50,000 punitive damages, the works trying to bury us financially and socially. Sarah's hands shook as she read the complaint. For a minute, I felt the weight of bankruptcy and cancer bills like a physical pressure. But that lawsuit was the gravestone she dug for herself. Discovery obliges a plaintiff to open records. She had just handed subpoena power a work order, and she kept talking. In private calls, she bragged about accelerating consulting fees before Bob notices. She coordinated fake complaints, timed inspections to humiliate families, even orchestrated late-night vandalism to create a narrative of random crime. All of it ended up on our servers. We organized. Mrs. Patterson, who had been fragile and generous, turned into the spine of the resistance, digitizing 5 years of HOA minutes and pointing out where signatures didn't match invoices. Bob Henderson from the bank quietly validated the fraud patterns. Jennifer assembled legal avenues. I built facial recognition triggers tied to instant police alerts. We shared stories in a group thread. Suddenly, the fear that had silenced everyone broke. Then came the audacious mistake. One night, someone attempted a neighborhood-wide vandalism spree to make it look like random attacks, paint across fences, a crowbar, through junction boxes, ugly chaos. They thought darkness would hide them. Instead, 4 cameras captured them in perfect detail, motion sensors bathing the cul-de-sac in white light, audio capturing the crisp crack of conduit. We streamed the footage live to social media and called the sheriff. Within minutes, deputies arrived to find Victoria mid-swing, pink dripping from her manicured fingers, her husband with a crowbar, both caught on camera with garden soil under their shoes. Arrest was only the beginning. Surveyors measured her pool deck and driveway and found a 3-foot encroachment onto HOA land. Someone had essentially annexed community property. Bank statements showed tens of thousands in fraudulent consulting payments. Audio proved racial slurs, threats, and conspiracy. Federal investigators took notice: wire fraud, mail fraud, civil rights violations. The woman who thought she could bully a neighborhood ended up pleading guilty, serving time, paying restitution, watching her McMansion auctioned off to cover damages. The courtroom didn't feel like revenge so much as restoration. When the community center filled and the evidence rolled on screens, people who'd been whispered at and shamed for years stood and finally spoke. Mrs. Patterson planted a memorial garden where the illegal pool deck had been. We reformed the HOA with transparent budgeting, anti-discrimination rules, and a solar incentive program so neighbors could save without fear. The restitution funded scholarships, energy assistance, and a memorial garden honoring veterans. Emma's science project won state recognition. The panels still power half the block, and a scholarship fund that sends kids to STEM camp. If there's a moral, it's blunt and simple. Power thrives on silence. Petty tyrants flourish when good people stay quiet. Technology helped, damn right it did, but technology without community is just blinking plastic. What won this was evidence plus people willing to turn that evidence into action. We didn't humiliate someone, we exposed systematic theft and discrimination, and used the law to hold it accountable. The best kind of revenge, if you can call it that, was building something better than what she tried to crush. So here's the question I'll leave you with: was this justice, or did we go too far? Did the punishment fit the crime, or did a neighborhood's righteous fury become overreach? Drop your story in the comments. Got a HOA horror, a Victoria in your life? Tell us how it played out or ask for advice on documenting corruption. If this made you believe in the power of evidence, hit like, share, and subscribe. Sometimes the quietest weapon is the one that records everything, and the loudest victories are the ones built in daylight.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.